All right, let's talk about Russia. What we do know, President Trump met with President Zelensky today at the White House, and we'll show you some of what they said. The two big kind of unknowns now are the Tomahawk missiles going to be delivered to the Ukrainians? That seems at play now. The president today was kind of cool on that, Zelensky warmer. And then is the president of the United States going to meet with Putin in Europe? Both those unknown at this moment. Here is a headline from the Wall Street Journal, number one, Sam, please, regarding the president's point of view. Trump says he'd rather end the war than send Tomahawks to Ukraine. White House meeting with Zelensky comes a day after the president discussed peace plans with Russians. Putin. Number two, this is a New York Times headline. Zelensky says request for Tomahawks is still, quote, under discussion with Trump. Here's the president saying he'd rather talk about the Tomahawks and not send them. Number three, please.
I have an obligation also, though, to make sure that we're completely stocked up as a country, because you never know what's going to happen in war and peace, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to be talking about Tomahawks, and would much rather have them not need Tomahawks. Would much rather have the war be over, to be honest, because, you know, we're in it to get the war over. We're selling a lot of different types of weapon, as you know, to the European Union. We're not in it for that. We're in it to get it over. We're losing thousands of people a week, thousands of people, Russian, Ukrainian, and mostly soldiers. I mean, mostly soldiers. But we're in it to see that end. And if we can end quickly, and I think we can. I mean, I had a very good talk yesterday. We're going to be talking about it. But I had a very productive talk yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. But the war in the Middle East was far more complicated. We got that one done. And I think we have a good chance. I think President Zelensky wants it done, and I think President Putin wants it done. Now all they have to do is get along a little bit.
Mark Short, I'm not, the appearance is the contrary. I'm not a CIA psyops expert on Putin's psychology. But if all that's happened since he basically played the U.S. after Alaska is that there was a vague, squishy, squashy talk of Tomahawks, what would lead anyone to believe that he's serious about negotiating now?
I don't think that anybody should believe that. I think that Putin has been tapping Trump along, and I think he will continue to do so. I think, you know, Mark, you and I have talked about some of the significant departures in policy from the second Trump administration relative to the first. And I think that, you know, economically, seeing us now as a party embrace state-owned enterprises that make Warren and Sanders blush, and a trade agenda that is excited only by Peter Navarro and the most rabid unionists. I think the other piece of this that's the most shocking is the change in policy toward Ukraine. In 2018, you know, Donald Trump's rallies in the midterms, he would boast about the fact that we sent Javelin missiles to Ukraine, and all that Obama did was send blankets. There was a unification in believing that it was important to protect Ukraine from Russian aggression. And yet today, I think it seems like there's a willingness to abandon our commitment to Ukraine. And I think that certainly there's a lot of people, even in our party, who question what's the benefit of Ukraine. I think that the challenge is that for many of us, the concern is if you allow Putin to continue to advance in aggression against Ukraine, that will continue into countries we do have treaties with. And so it's not looking to send American troops to go to Ukraine, but it is willing to help Ukraine defend itself. And here we are several years in this conflict that people said Russia would roll over Ukraine in a matter of days. And now it's 4 years later. And basically, you've had Iran provide Russia with drones. You've had China provide them with resources and oil. You've had North Korea provide them with troops. Russia's hurting in this war. And I think that we should be arming Ukraine to allow them to win it and to push back against Russia aggression, not committing American troops in any way, but just providing the resources for Ukraine to defend themselves.
And Mark, just one more for you, and then I want Robby to weigh in on the same question. If Putin called, if you were national security advisor and Putin's national security advisor called you and said, if you do this, I will use nuclear weapons on Ukraine, what would you say?
Well, I mean, I think that the reality is that Putin responds to strength. He doesn't respond to weakness. And so I think we have to take any threat like that seriously, Mark, but at the same time, it's probably something that's calculated to get America to back down more so than it is something that Putin is actually.
But if you were national security advisor and he made that threat, would you be willing to take the risk? And
Well,
it's not
I
some
mean,
vague hypothetical. This is
yeah,
like why the Biden
well,
administration
sure.
and even this administration is hesitating.
Well, yes and no. I think there's a lot of other reasons for the hesitation in this administration. Again, I think that what Putin has responded to previously has been strength. And if he feels like you're going to be weak, he's going to keep tapping President Trump along, and he's not about to abandon his aggression in Ukraine.
Yeah. Robbie, are you at all have any seen anything to lead to believe that Putin would come to a negotiation to end the war?
I mean, not at this moment. I support and agree with Trump's approach to this by and large. I appreciate that my president is very inclined toward negotiation and peace and just wants to get this over with and was willing to walk Zelensky toward a place of saying, look, we're not going to conquer Russia and overthrow Putin and get back every inch of Ukraine. That would be ideal. I would support that outcome if it was possible, but it wasn't possible. That kind of wishful thinking that the previous administration had was not going to happen. So up to that point, I was like, yeah, we got to get them to reality because we can't have this go on forever. We just got to get it over with. But we got Zelensky on board with that. We got our European partners on board with that. We did that part of it. Putin has not moved despite a lot of favorable negotiation going on the Ukrainian side. So if that's their position, that it's all sleight of hand and they're really going to continue with this war because they really want to subjugate all of Ukraine, well then someone who's willing to say let's negotiate and have a deal that Ukraine won't love, but that's the best way to end the war, well then I say, you guys aren't serious about this. You're trying to conquer the whole country. Then you get fire and steel. Then we're gonna fight you and we're gonna make it difficult because I don't know what incentive we have to just lay down our arms if they're not playing ball with us. So I think Trump is frustrated. He doesn't want this to go on. He doesn't want to give them weapons. He doesn't want to be seen as encouraging it to go on. But if Putin is not going to play ball at all, I don't see what other option there is realistically. So I think he's weighing a very difficult choice and is correctly reticent to do it because we don't want this to go on, but Putin is not really giving them any chance, any choice in the matter. So I think it's smart to seriously weigh sending them the Tomahawks.
Right. Here's a word from one of our sponsors, the good folks at Cozy Earth. Opportunity for you to benefit from this program's relationship with the good folks at Cozy Earth who make bamboo sheets more comfortable and cooling than you've ever used, or they'll keep you warm in winter. They're temperature regulated. The Bubble Cuddle Blanket, it's a big fan of many members of the two-way community. It's a combination of comfort and style with distinctively textured bubble design. And if you buy one, you'll see it's not overrated, the Bubble Cuddle Blanket. It's just hard to say the name of it. And then, of course, they make lots of other stuff, including the famous pants, the now famous pants that I talk about as if I'm Donald Trump. The now famous pants. People are talking about the now famous pants. You can get 20% all of this by going to cozyearth.com using the promo code two-way. The pants, the joggers, the shirts, off of everything. Tell them you heard about it, Cozy Earth on two-way tonight. I don't know what will happen if you do, but they'd like you to do that because home isn't just where you live, it's how you feel. Let's go home with Cozy Earth.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and two-way tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.